You ever have one of those moments where the world just tilts? Like someone pulled the rug out from under your life and you didn't even realize it until you were already mid-fall? That was me, sweating on a rooftop in the Arizona desert, sun beating down hard as I calibrated an inverter on a solar array. I was up there alone, perched above this blistering landscape when my phone buzzed in my back pocket. It was a video from my brother, Tyler. No message. Just the video. Curious, I pressed play. The bass of some club music thumped through the speakers, blurry lights, and people moving in chaotic waves. Typical Vegas scene. Then the camera steadied for a moment and I swear my heart stopped. There she was. Amber. My wife. She was sitting on some guy's lap, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. Her hand was on his shoulder, her body leaned into him in a way that sent my stomach lurching. It wasn't playful. It was an asterisk, mate. To an asterisk, mate. I watched it 3 times, hoping I was misreading it. But there was no mistaking that laugh. I knew it better than my own voice. When I called her, she picked up on the 3rd ring. Hey, babe, she said, chipper. Too chipper. What's up? Thought you'd be knee-deep in wiring. I didn't beat around the bush. Tyler just sent me a video. From Vegas. You're in it. There was a beat of silence. Then, oh. That was from, like, forever ago. Months ago. You remember that work retreat? That's all it was. The guy's just a coworker. Part of a team thing. It looks worse than it is, trust me. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mind was still stuck on the image of her laughing in another man's arms while I was 300 miles away tightening bolts and fighting off sunstroke. You believe me, right? She added. I wanted to. God, I wanted to believe her. But something in her voice, the forced lightness, the slight hitch didn't sit right. I told her I had to get back to work. Hung up before she could keep talking. I stood there for a long time after that. Just me, the sun, and a silence that felt way too loud. After that call, something in me changed. I didn't say anything to Tyler when I texted back a simple thanks. He didn't press for details and I appreciated that. I think he already knew. Brothers always know. That night, I finished my shift in the desert with my mind spinning like a turbine. I kept replaying that clip in my head, Amber's face, the way she leaned into that guy, her laugh that used to be ours. When I got home 2 days later, Amber was waiting for me. She greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. She wore my favorite sundress and handed me a beer before I even took off my boots. That should have reassured me. It didn't. The thing about trust is, once it cracks, everything starts to feel different. Little things you ignored before suddenly scream for attention. Like how she didn't make 2 cups of coffee anymore. Used to be a small thing we did, she'd always make mine just the way I liked it, little bit of cream, no sugar. Lately? Just 1 mug on the counter. Hers. Or the jewelry. Amber wasn't big on accessories, not really. So when she started wearing a new necklace, a dainty silver chain with a little stone I didn't recognize, I asked her where she got it. She smiled and said, oh, just a little something I treated myself to. Figured I deserved it. Sure. Deserved it. But I'd never seen the receipt. Never saw her buy it. Never saw her wear it when we were together. Only when she was heading out. She started coming home later, too. Always had some reason, a long meeting, happy hour, a detour to check out some art installation with a friend I'd never met. Once or twice, I asked if she wanted me to meet up with her. She always said no. Girls only, she'd say with a wink. Next time. One night, she came home close to 2 a.m., said she was crashing at her friend Sasha's place but changed her mind and Ubered back. Her hair was slightly damp. I caught the scent of something sharp and sterile, hotel soap. Not the lavender shampoo she kept in our shower. I asked how her night was. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and said, exhausting but fun. And me? I said nothing. I wish I could say it was because I trusted her. But the truth is I was scared. Scared of what I'd hear if I asked the questions I didn't want the answers to. I told myself I was being paranoid. I reminded myself we'd been married for 6 years, been together for 9. Amber had stood beside me through job losses, family funerals, and more arguments than I could count. She'd fought for me when I couldn't even fight for myself. But people change. That's what I started telling myself late at night when I couldn't sleep. People grow apart. Maybe I had pushed her away without realizing it. Maybe I'd become too consumed by work, too predictable. Still, there were moments, fleeting but heavy, when I'd catch her smiling at her phone. Not the casual, amused kind of smile. This one was different. Like she was letting her guard down. I used to be the one who got that smile. She also changed her phone password. We'd never hidden things from each other before. Her phone used to light up on the nightstand and I wouldn't think twice about checking the weather or Googling some random trivia that popped into my head. Yeah? Locked. I asked about it once. She said it's just for work stuff. There's sensitive info on there. You know how corporate compliance is. Sure. Sensitive info. So I stopped asking. Stopped prying. But I watched. Closely. Then came the Thursday I remember too well. I got off work early, surprised her at home with takeout from her favorite Thai place. I figured maybe, just maybe, we could reset. Talk. Laugh. Be us. I walked in and found the living room dark, the air thick with silence. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, buzzing. I don't know what made me pick it up. Maybe it was the weeks of doubt eating at me. Maybe it was the gut feeling I couldn't shake. Maybe it was just a man reaching for the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. The screen lit up with a message. Josh, you looked amazing last night. Can't stop thinking about it. I put the phone down like it was on fire. Josh. I didn't know a Josh. I didn't want to know a Josh. Amber came through the door 5 minutes later, all smiles, wearing that same necklace and smelling like fresh cologne I didn't own. She hugged me like nothing was wrong. I hugged her back, said nothing. But I knew. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I watched her a little differently. She laughed, but there was a new tone to it. Hello. She talked, but avoided eye contact. When I touched her, she flinched like my hand was too heavy. She had made up her mind already. I just hadn't caught up yet. The tension in our house became unbearable. I found excuses to stay out late, extra shifts, errands that didn't need running. I just couldn't be in that silence anymore. Couldn't sit next to someone who felt miles away. One night, I stayed in the truck outside the house, engine off, headlights dimmed. She came home just after midnight. I watched her through the windshield, walking up the path like she didn't have a care in the world. She paused at the front door to check her reflection in her phone screen. Smoothed her hair. Smiled. She never smiled like that for me anymore. That night, while she showered, I sat in the dark with her tablet in my lap. She'd forgotten to log out. Or maybe she thought I'd never look. Either way, that's when I found everything. But that part of the story, that's next. It was the kind of silence you don't forget. The house was still, too still. The only sound was the soft patter of water from the shower upstairs and my heart hammering against my ribs. Amber's tablet was sitting on the ottoman, screen still glowing. Maybe it was a slip-up. Maybe she was so comfortable, so sure I wouldn't ever look, that she didn't bother signing out. I shouldn't have looked. That's what people always say, right? Trust your partner. Respect privacy. But trust has a weight, and that weight had been cracking my spine for weeks. Something had shifted between us, and I needed to know what it was. I didn't have to dig. She'd left the evidence lined up like dominoes. Photos. Messages. Screensh *TS. Emails. Calendars with heart emojis marking conferences that, funny enough, coincided with hotel reservations under Josh's name. Josh. The name I'd seen on her phone a few nights earlier now stared back at me in full color. He wasn't just a coworker. He wasn't even just a fling. He was the plan. There were selfies taken in mirror-lit bathrooms, some clothed, some less so. There were messages with jokes about me. About how I was still clueless. About how he actually believes I'm out with Sasha again, LOL. I scrolled. My hands were shaking, but I couldn't stop. Josh, he doesn't suspect a thing. He's too busy playing handyman in the desert. Face with ears of joy. Amber, I know. And the best part? That dumb gift he got me? The lingerie? I wore it, just not for him. I put the tablet down gently like it might explode. My vision tunneled. I was gripping the armrest so tight my knuckles went white. She had used the lingerie I saved up for. That I gave her on our anniversary. The one I wrapped with care and placed next to a handwritten note that said, for when you want to feel beautiful, because you always are. I think I forgot how to breathe for a second. But the worst part? It wasn't just the affair. It was everything else. The financial documents. The legal bookmarks. The emails with subject lines like dividing assets in community property states and how to protect your claim during divorce. There was a draft in her email titled, Logan's leaving again, let's move forward. It was addressed to Josh. In it, she wrote about how she was planning to wait until I got assigned out of state again. How she'd file once I was away. How she'd make the case that I'd emotionally abandoned the home. It was all so neat. So tidy. Like I was a chess piece on a board she'd already decided to clear. This wasn't just infidelity. This was strategy. She wasn't leaving because she fell out of love. She was plotting to take the house, the savings, maybe even the truck. All of it while smiling across the dinner table asking how my day was. That night I didn't confront her. When she came downstairs, wrapped in a towel, humming some song like nothing was wrong, I looked up and smiled. Hey, I said. She smiled back. You okay? You look tired. Just fried from work, I replied. I'm gonna crash early. She leaned in to kiss me. I kissed her back, and something inside me calcified, hardened. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember waking up with the kind of clarity that only comes when you're past the point of pain. This wasn't going to be a fight. It was going to be a response. I spent the next morning documenting everything. *TS. Cloud syncs. I backed up every message and photo onto 2 encrypted flash drives, one for me, one for the lawyer I hadn't even hired yet but knew I'd need. I searched property documents. Amber hadn't moved yet, but she was researching whether Josh could be added to the deed after the divorce. There was a file of text notes where she outlined possibilities like filing for a no-fault separation citing neglect. Neglect. Because I worked 14-hour days under a brutal Arizona sun, building the savings she now aimed to siphon. There were even notes about my retirement account. She had written, ask HR if half of Roth can be accessed during proceedings? Half of what I'd saved. For both of us. I copied everything. Labeled every folder with timestamps. Every message with metadata. I wasn't just documenting betrayal, I was building a wall. Brick by digital brick. I called an old friend, Blake, someone I trusted like a brother. He ran a small security firm and had always said, if you ever need a favor, Logan, you call me first. That night I called. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. I needed a place to crash. Quiet. Off the grid. Somewhere I could be nearby without being in the house. He didn't ask questions. Just gave me an address and a code for the garage. I told Amber the company was sending me to Montana for a new build. That I'd be gone at least 3 weeks. She acted disappointed, even pouted a little, but didn't protest. That was confirmation in itself. The next day, I packed a duffel bag, kissed her goodbye, and drove 20 minutes north. Not to the airport. To Blake's. His place was simple. Quiet. Safe. And best of all, close enough to watch. Because I needed to see what she would do now that she thought I was out of the picture. It didn't take long. Day 3. Afternoon sun still hanging low, I watched through a live feed from the camera I'd hidden in the oak planter box on the porch. Amber pulled into the driveway in her car, alone. 5 minutes later, Josh's black sedan appeared. He parked like he'd done it a dozen times before. Comfortable. Confident. I watched him knock once before opening the door with my key. They laughed as they walked in. He had his arm around her waist. That was the moment something inside me went from broken to still. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't smash anything. I just hit record. The camera caught it all, his car, their entrance, the timestamp. My lawyer was going to have a field day with it. I installed motion detectors, 2 small ones that triggered when someone moved past the office doorway or the bedroom hall. Every movement was logged. Every time they went into a room, I knew. They didn't even try to hide it. They had wine on the patio, cooked in the kitchen like it was their house. I even caught them trying to access my personal laptop. She tried my birthday. Our anniversary. Our dog's name. She got locked out after 5 failed attempts. Still, she smiled. I watched from a distance as she lived her double life, thinking I was none the wiser. Every day became part of the record. Every whisper, every touch, every smug glance Josh gave her while sitting in the chair I built in our garage, my chair, damn it. It hurt. Of course it did. But after a while, the pain gave way to precision. I was collecting puzzle pieces. And they were giving me the whole picture, one smug day at a time. By the end of the week, I had enough evidence to make the Grand Canyon jealous. Amber texted me that Sunday night. Hey baby. Miss you already. Let's FaceTime this week. I want to show you the new centerpiece I bought for the dining table. Hope Montana's not freezing you out, face blowing a kiss. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I looked back at the feed from the bedroom camera. Josh. In my bed. Their voices, faint but clear. Amber, think he'll be back early? Josh, if he does, we'll handle it. You'll be free soon anyway. Free? No. She wouldn't be free. She'd be exposed. And I was just getting started. By the second week, I wasn't even angry anymore. I had shifted gears emotionally and mentally. The betrayal had settled somewhere deep, like a stone in my chest, not sharp anymore, just heavy. I had moved past rage and was now operating in a space that felt colder, calmer. Calculated. Amber was living in the illusion that I was hundreds of miles away setting up an energy grid outside Billings. She even joked about it over the phone one night, something about me keeping warm with solar panels and elk meat. I played along, smiled through the call, even asked how the girls were doing. She listed off names of people she hadn't seen in weeks. She was lying so effortlessly it was almost impressive. Meanwhile, I was parked less than 8 miles from the house, sleeping on a fold-out couch in Blake's den, drinking cheap gas station coffee and making calls under the name of a cousin who used to sell insurance. No one knew where I really was, not her friends, and not even my own family. I needed that buffer to move the pieces into place. The first thing I did was meet with my lawyer, Sarah Douglas, a former prosecutor with a record that made sharks nervous. I told her everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't blink once during the meeting. Just listened, took notes, and occasionally let out a quiet Jesus. When I handed her the flash drive with the backed-up files, messages, photos, and footage, she nodded slowly. "This is more than enough," she said. "Honestly, you could have walked into court with half of this and won a clean split. With this, you're going to walk away with the house, the savings, and possibly a restraining order if they keep it." I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for clarity, for an exit with my dignity and assets intact. But I wasn't above letting Amber bury herself either. While Sarah began preparing the paperwork, I focused on quietly dismantling our financial life together. We had a joint account, emphasis on had. I transferred half the funds into a new private account, then paused all automatic drafts tied to shared expenses. Credit cards, car payments, subscriptions, if my name was on it, it was frozen, transferred, or revoked. The next day, I met with a financial advisor, technically a cousin of Blake's, and created a new trust for my side business, which included our solar consulting venture. I moved the business assets into the trust, separating my ownership stake from anything Amber could touch. She wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. I also moved some of our physical assets, important documents, title deeds, and even a few valuable family heirlooms into a locked safe at a storage unit across town. It was a strange feeling, packing away parts of our life. The wedding album. The photo of us on the coast in Oregon. The dog collar from Max, our retriever who died 2 years ago. I didn't want to take everything. Just the pieces that still meant something to me. Amber didn't notice a thing. That's what stunned me. She never even mentioned the bank alerts, the unsubscribed emails, or the autopay changes. Either she was too distracted with Josh or too confident in her plan to see mine unfolding. And Josh? He'd gotten bolder. They stopped hiding. He parked in the driveway now like he belonged there. I caught them once on the backyard camera having lunch on the patio, laughing over my old college grill. It wasn't just betrayal at this point. It was invasion. That night, I changed tactics. I installed 2 more motion-triggered cameras, one in the garage and one in the office. I hid a keylogger on my personal desktop, knowing full well Amber had been trying to get into it. She'd even Googled how to access spouses' encrypted files legally. The irony made me laugh out loud in Blake's kitchen over a bowl of cold cereal. With every passing day, the footage piled up. Josh staying the night. Josh using my razor. Josh opening my mail. At one point, they were watching a documentary in bed, the same one I had saved in our Netflix queue, waiting for us to watch together. She made popcorn. They laughed. It was surreal, watching 2 people destroy your life while thinking they were building theirs. Every call Amber made to me during this time, I recorded. And she called often, sometimes just to check in, other times to ask about the mortgage, the gutters, or if I could send her the password for the router again. Each lie became another data point, another nail in the coffin. One night she called and said, "I've been thinking about remodeling the kitchen. Maybe opening it up into the dining room? What do you think, babe?" I wanted to say, "Are you going to ask Josh to knock down the wall, too?" Instead, I said, "Yeah, sounds nice. Draw up a budget." She laughed. "That's your department, remember?" I smiled into the phone. Not for long. After the call ended, I pulled up the footage again. I'd grown used to watching it now, detached like a third-party observer. There she was again on the couch with Josh, a glass of wine in her hand, her legs draped over his lap. "I think Logan's going to propose a vacation when he gets back," she said. Josh smirked. "Let him. He's the one paying for it." Amber leaned in. "You really think we'll get away with all of this?" "Josh, we already have." I paused the footage, played it again. Then I copied it to the drive marked final. Because that's what it was. Final. That same night, I sent Sarah a message. Subject line, "Initiate." She called me an hour later. "You sure?" "I'm done pretending," I told her. "Let's move." The next 72 hours were a blur. Sarah filed the initial paperwork, irreconcilable differences, backed by substantial evidence of infidelity and financial misconduct. She requested an immediate freeze on shared assets and a court order for exclusive use of the residence, based on security concerns. I signed it all. And then I waited for the moment Amber's world would shift like mine had 3 weeks ago on that rooftop in Arizona. I didn't have to wait long. The morning after filing, I showed up to the house. Unannounced. Not angry. Not loud. Just present. Amber answered the door in pajamas, clearly not expecting me. She blinked twice, lips parting in disbelief. "Logan." "Morning," I said. "What are you? Aren't you supposed to be in?" "Montana got delayed." She hesitated. "You should have called." I smiled. Some things are better handled in person. From behind her, I saw movement. Josh stepping into view, shirtless, holding a mug with my name on it. Amber spun around, panic flashing across her face. "Logan, wait. This isn't. Save it." I stepped past her, walked straight to the living room, and dropped a small envelope onto the coffee table. Inside, a printed cover letter from Sarah, a copy of the court motion, and a jump drive labeled evidence. Effective immediately, I said, "You are no longer entitled to access our accounts, our business, or this property. Your attorney should be in touch." Josh said nothing, just hovered there like he'd walked into the wrong movie. Amber's mouth opened, but no words came. She tried again. "Logan, You've been heard," I said, cutting her off. "Every conversation, every lie, every password attempt. It's all in there." She glanced at the envelope, then back at me. "You spied on me?" "No," I said. "I protected myself. From you." I turned toward the door. "You'll receive notice of your court appearance within the week," I added. "Until then, you're not to enter the premises without legal clearance. Logan, please, can we just talk?" I looked at her. Not the way I used to, not with love or longing or even rage. I looked at her the way you look at someone you used to know, someone who chose a path so far from yours that you could no longer follow. "There's nothing left to talk about," I said quietly, and I walked out the door. After that morning, Amber didn't call for 2 days. Then, like a switch had been flipped, she flooded my phone with messages. First it was confusion, then charm, then guilt, then anger. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't need to. She finally left a voicemail on the 3rd day. "Logan, I don't know what you think you saw, or what that lawyer told you, but I wish you'd talk to me. I'm still your wife. We're supposed to be in this together. Please, call me." That voicemail was timestamped at 10:14 a.m. At 10:16 a.m., she walked into the kitchen with Josh, hand in hand, joking about brunch plans. I know because the home security cameras caught every frame. Their laughter was hollow, but their comfort in my house, the one I had paid for, built piece by piece over the years, was very, very real. And that was the point where my pain officially became fuel. With Sarah at the helm, I kept building the case. I reviewed the footage daily, not obsessively, methodically. Every shared kiss, every logged entry, every moment where Amber paraded around our home with Josh, as if I were some distant memory, got clipped, dated, and stored in a folder labeled Exhibit B, Cohabitation. Then there was the laptop. Turns out Amber had finally gotten into it, but not without leaving digital fingerprints. She installed a keylogger of her own, thinking she'd outsmart me. What she didn't realize was, I had a duplicate environment running in the background, one that mirrored her every move. She had searched phrases like, "Can adultery affect divorce in Arizona?" and "How to prove emotional abandonment in court." She even created a draft spreadsheet detailing her version of our financial breakdown. Conveniently, it left out her little escapade with Josh. But I wasn't interested in counterattacks. I was interested in truth. So I let her keep digging. She was still calling me nightly. Sometimes around dinner. Sometimes right before bed. Each time, her voice was sugar-coated. "Missed you today. Made that stir-fry you like. Wish you were here. You'll never believe what happened at the store. Some guy tried to. I didn't answer. I recorded every message." The woman leaving those voicemails wasn't my wife. She was a performance. A projection. Like she was trying to convince the court that she was still a devoted spouse. that this was just a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, the cameras told a different story. Romantic dinners. Him holding her hand across the table. Her feeding him bites from a fork with a giggle she used to save for me. Their routine was almost cinematic, so polished it felt rehearsed. The night after the filing, Amber sat at the dining table, laptop open, a glass of white wine in her hand. Josh stood behind her, pointing at the screen. They were reading about marital property division and how to request spousal support after infidelity allegations. They actually laughed when one article mentioned equitable division. She doesn't even have a job, I muttered from Blake's couch, watching it live. They weren't just preparing. They were still under the delusion that I didn't know. Josh was even more smug now. Walking around in my t-shirts. Using my tools. Once, I caught him in the garage trying to start the old project bike I'd been working on before everything exploded. He looked right into the camera and smirked. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. Sarah had advised me to stay quiet. Keep calm. Let the evidence stack itself. She reminded me the more they think they're in control, the more they show us. And show us they did. Amber's phone calls shifted from warm to worried after I still didn't reply. I got a notice about a financial freeze. Logan, can you explain that? My cards aren't working. Then, Logan, this is ridiculous. I needed those funds for bills. You don't have to make this ugly. And finally, if you're trying to scare me, it's not going to work. I talked to someone. You can't just take everything. But I didn't need to scare her. The truth was doing that just fine. I had also installed a silent screen capture on her tablet, which she still used to browse Reddit and look up divorce advice. She commented anonymously under a throwaway account. Anyone been blindsided by a controlling spouse in divorce? How do I protect myself if he's already planning everything behind my back? She was scared. And that told me I was close. The final piece came one Thursday night when she FaceTimed me. I didn't answer, but the camera showed her holding a bottle of wine, hair done, wearing the cardigan I had bought her in Sedona for our 4th anniversary. She looked into the screen with this melancholy expression. I don't know what you want from me, Logan. I'm trying. I'm still here. You're the one who disappeared. I love you. I know I messed up, but please, just call me back. 10 minutes later, she curled into Josh's chest on the couch and watched a movie. Fake tears. Real betrayal. I clipped the footage. Added it to the collection. Sarah said we were ready. She had already filed for a hearing, requesting expedited judgment based on flagrant disregard for marital boundaries and potential fraudulent asset manipulation. The judge would see it all, the footage, the texts, the logins, the lies. All that was left now was to show up. But I didn't want her to hear it from an attorney or a court clerk. I wanted her to hear it from me. So I called. The first time in weeks. She answered in half a ring. Logan, she said, breathless. I didn't speak right away. I wanted her to sit with the silence. Then, check your email? A pause. What? Check your inbox. Right now. I could hear her tapping. Another pause. And then a sharp inhale. You sent this to me? Yes. This is Logan. I thought we were working through this. No, I said. You were playing house with someone else while trying to take mine out from under me. Her voice cracked. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. I gave you weeks, I replied calmly. You just spent them planning your exit. I'm not mad, Amber. I'm done. You can't just erase everything we had. You already did. She was quiet then. For once, really quiet. I let that linger. Then I said, the judge will see everything. So will your lawyer. I suggest you stop pretending. It's over. Before she could say another word, I ended the call. It was done. Not in the dramatic way people expect. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just truth. That weekend, Josh disappeared. Literally. No more driveway appearances. No more backyard dates. His car never showed up again. I think the reality of the court filing finally got to him. Maybe she told him the truth. Maybe he figured it out on his own. Either way, he ran. Amber, on the other hand, stayed. For about another week. She tried reaching out one more time, showed up at Blake's place, actually. Knocked on the door in tears, asking if I'd hear her out. I didn't open the door. Blake didn't either. I watched her through the camera mounted over the porch. She looked small, like a character whose script had run out of pages. She left after 5 minutes. 2 days later, she was officially removed from the property under court order. Sarah called it a victory. I called it freedom. I returned home that Friday. Stepped into a place that finally felt like mine again. The air was different. Still, but clear. I walked through the living room. Past the dining table. Down the hall. There were echoes of her in everything, the couch blanket she used to hog, the scuff mark on the wall from the time she danced in her socks. But they didn't haunt me anymore. They reminded me that I had survived her. I came back on a Monday morning. No warning, no calls. Just parked my truck in the driveway like I'd never left. Amber opened the door mid-coffee, still wearing one of my shirts like it meant something. Her smile flickered when she saw my face. "Logan, you're back?" I walked past her, calm, composed, a folder in hand. "It's done," I said. Inside was the flash drive, the legal filing, and a formal notice of asset division. I laid it on the kitchen counter without a word. She reached for me, desperate, still pretending, but the performance was over. Josh was gone. Her calls had stopped working. Her friends? Silent. She stood there, lost in a house that was never hers to begin with. "You should pack," I said. "The court gave you 72 hours. And that was it. No yelling. No tears from me. Just silence and consequence." She left 2 days later. No goodbye. Just a dent in the pillow and a faint trail of perfume. The silence she left behind wasn't empty, it was clean. Like fresh air after a storm. Weeks passed. Then months. I moved to Utah in spring. Took a job managing a major solar install up in the Wasatch Range. Clear skies, quiet mornings, good people. The kind of peace you don't realize you need until it finally finds you. Amber never tried to contact me again. Josh faded too, like a subplot that didn't matter in the end. Now, standing high above the valley, wind at my face, I know one thing for sure. She broke me open, but I didn't fall apart. I rebuilt, smarter, stronger, still kind. She's gone. And she'll never be part of what I build next.